Welcome to Channel 4 News. Tonight's top story: aliens have landed and wish to speak to our world leaders. Surprisingly, they look a lot like Pomeranian puppies. Hold on, I'm getting word of a bigger story unfolding at the moment. Anita Sarkeesian, Feminist Frequency herself, has released a new video. We have immediate commentary from correspondents Jordan Owen 42 and Warcorpse 666. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome.
Who is John Galt?
I don't know.
I believe Jordan meant that rhetorically, Warcorpse. Nice clocks, by the way. But Jordan, I'm going to start with you. What were your first impressions watching this new video by Sarkeesian?
I love how she's trying to use a blatant knockoff of an existing franchise as some great artistic step forward. Also, Anita, are you now finally able to admit that Link's actual goal was to restore the Triforce and that rescuing Zelda was only a byproduct of that?
Well, I guess you got her there. Warcorpse, what about your impressions?
Look, I don't know if you can really call it a girl from that pixelated drawing there.
Fair enough, and I just want to get a response from both of you to Anita's claim that this is a step forward, having a female protagonist who has no obvious gender signifiers to tell the audience that she is female and that her femaleness is not the focus of her character.
How? They've been doing that. Oh my god, really? You think this is the first game to fucking feature a female protagonist in a traditionally male role? Are you fucking stupid? All I'm gonna say, Metroid! That is my argument!
Well, I was originally going to say that Joan of Arc probably effectively demonstrated that several centuries ago, but as I think about it, what's really amazing, and this is similar to the way feminists were freaking the fuck out over Chell and Portal, is they act like it's revolutionary that these games are just inserting women into the stories, into the lead roles without making a big deal about it. And the thing is, that's not revolutionary. The point, the reason that's happening is because, lo and behold, we're past the point of that mattering.
Anita points out that in this game it doesn't need to be a surprise twist that the protagonist is female, but it is supposed to be accepted despite the fact that the character doesn't have any gender signifiers, and that being a woman is not part of the character's story. How do you guys respond to that?
It's always amazing to me how Anita, her fellow social justice warriors, will condemn games for not being gender inclusive in exactly the right way. I know it's difficult to deal with, Anita, but 30 years ago when Metroid first hit the scene, gaming was predominantly male. That doesn't mean that game manufacturers wanted to put women in burqas and cut off their clits.
But doesn't the difference between the 30 years between Metroid and Sword and Sorcery, where in Metroid it had to be a big twist, but in Sword and Sorcery it's just an accepted thing that this character is a woman, contradict what you just said earlier about this not being a new thing? What do you have to say about that? Warcorpse, care to chime in on this one?
Oh my god, really? And yet Samus Aris, with that surprise twist ending, has become one of the most beloved fucking characters in gamedom. this argument is so stupid that I'm not even. I'm gonna let other people deal with it.
Well, like 2 years ago maybe, I called into the Honey Badger radio show, and it was the original episode they did on Anita Sarkeesian, and I was talking basically about how this sort of what Anita's doing sort of discourages women from wanting to be involved in games because it makes what they do, it makes the fact that they're a woman the be-all and end-all of their existence. And I believe it was Karen Strawn had a really good point that there were, if you look at the history of science fiction writing, there were a number of women who were becoming prominent science fiction writers by writing either under gender ambiguous names like C.J. Cherryh, or actually writing under men's names like James Tiptree Jr. And the thinking, the conventional wisdom around why they were doing that was that, they had to fool the publishers or something because the publishers wouldn't publish female writers or this, that, or the other, or were expecting a certain type of writing from female writers and that sort of thing. But as Karen pointed out, and she's right, the other element of that was that women wanted to, like I mentioned, wanted to write their stories, tell their stories, and have their stories be appreciated. They just wanted to be writers, not women writers. They didn't want to be assimilated into the feminist sisterhood. They wanted their work to stand on its own.
But isn't that the opposite of what Anita's arguing here? She's arguing that female characters should not be limited to female-specific roles, but a wide variety of roles should be available to them, and that they should not be judged as female characters, but as characters in their own right.
It's, for the movie, we interviewed Jim Goad, and the progress is coming along fine on the movie. Lots of headaches. I don't want to go into that right now.
Fair enough. Jordan is, of course, referencing his film, The Sarkeesian Effect, of which we are all looking forward to.
Anyway, but we interviewed Jim Goad, and he said something very interesting. He said, what Anita is, she's a colonialist, a colonist in the world of video games. She's going in, what she's doing, she's not just participating, she's not just going in and playing games, because obviously there was never any restriction on her or any other woman doing that. She's going in and colonizing. She's claiming the space. She's not coming in and enjoying the space or creating her own space. She's claiming the space. He's exactly right.
That explains why I got sick after Anita gave me those blankets. What do you think about her comments about the writing of the character of the Cynthian?
Being a published novelist and the author of many short stories, I obviously have no basis whatsoever from which to speak about character development or dialogue choices, but if I may submit a humble comment, the first part of that phrase, we had bridged the chasm, we had crossed the chasm, sounds like something you would hear in the narration of an epic fantasy story. The statement, and felt super smart, sounds like the kind of thing you would hear in something that was, catering to the adult children of the social justice warrior entitlement generation.
Oh, come on, Jordan. That line was obviously supposed to be comedic. Are you going to cut Anita any slack?
There is something very insidious happening with what Anita's doing, which is, for so long, there has been the parents groups, the concerned mothers of the world, politicians swooping in, worried about children emulating the violence they see in video games. I know people are going to rush in and say, "Hey, you interviewed Jack Thompson! How can you say that? You're being a hypocrite!" And here's the thing. Those of us who are thinking above the brainstem level understand that you can go interview somebody to get their perspective on something without agreeing with them completely.
Yes, it's perfectly valid to interview somebody who has a position you consider to be the position you're arguing against in order to demonize a person who doesn't actually have that position but you wish to attribute that position to. It makes perfect sense.
I know the social justice warriors don't understand talking to somebody you don't agree with to see if you can find a productive, proactive point in what they have to say. I know that subtle nuance isn't quite there. You want to, piss yourself and slam the door the minute you hear anything. It's like Bill Maher said, you have to, the left nowadays has to burn at the stake anyone who only agrees with them 95%.
So I want to get back to Warcorpse, but I wanted to ask you about the death of the Scythian and Anita's contention that's a noble death and superior to those of other female characters in media.
Whoever is now within reach of my voice, whoever is man the victim, not man the killer, I am speaking at the deathbed of your mind, at the brink of that darkness into which you are drowning, and if there remains within you the power to struggle, to hold on to those fading sparks which had been yourself, use it now. The word that has destroyed you is sacrifice. Use the last of your strength to understand its meaning. You're still alive.
Okay, Jordan, we don't have time for this. Jordan.
Sacrifice does not mean the rejection of the worthless, but of the precious. Sacrifice does not mean rejection of the evil for the sake of the good, but of the good for the sake of the evil. Sacrifice is the surrender of that which you value.
I'm going to cut your mic. Jordan.
If you exchange a penny
for
a dollar,
I'm going to cut your mic. I'm going to cut your mic, Jordan.
A dollar for a penny, it is.
If
you achieve a career you wanted after years of struggle, it is not a sacrifice. If you then renounce it for the sake of a rival, it is. If you own a bottle of milk and give it to your starving child, it is not a sacrifice. If you give it to your neighbor's child and let your own die, it is.
So, Warcorpse, what do you think of this issue?
If you give it to a worthless stranger, it
Well, I don't really think Link's task in the fucking Legend of Zelda was a happy one either. You're one guy against a fucking army, you've got to fucking rescue some stupid dumb bitch whose army is so incompetent they can't rescue her.
If you give him money at the cost of disaster to yourself,
you're rewarded with nothing and you face countless dangers. Yes, this is a happy fucking quest.
So you don't think Anita bringing this character to light was
retain a value
an interesting thing for the gaming experience?
She's a video game character. We didn't experience shit. We experienced Dorito crumbs being lodged into the hard part to clean to the fucking couch.
If you renounce all
that's what we experienced.
And dedicate your life to those you
Jesus
love,
Christ,
you do not
Anita.
full virtue. You still
what did you fucking rub your pussy while you were fucking playing this game?
If you devote your life to random strangers, it is an act of greater virtue. If you devote your life to serving men you hate, that is the greatest.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for tonight. I'd like to thank our guests, Warcorpse 666 and Jordan Owen 42.
If you wish to achieve full virtue, you must show no gratitude in return for your sacrifice, no praise, no love, no admiration,
end of the
no
show.
Self-esteem, not even the pride of being virtuous. The faintest trace of any gain dilutes
Jordan, nobody's listening to you, Jordan. Stop reading Atlas Shrugged, Jordan. Anyway, stay classy, YouTube, and good night.